Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. We are very happy to have you in this channel, Create with Franz, where we talk about how to change your life, create the life that you want. So, if you're looking for a change now, maybe you're in the middle of a crisis, maybe you can't get a job, you can't move up a ladder, you can't go back to work, maybe you're a student, but it's like a period of crisis. You think, well, maybe I can do this. I have a help that you need today because I have with us today Dr. Diane Dye, all the way from Texas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Franz.
I am excited to have you because you will give us answers. And in particular, you are the creator of what we call the critical opportunity method. I like this critical. As Germany say, crucial. That word is always crucial. And you also have a book that you published during the pandemic. So let's talk about this and how did you create this? And for the person listening today thinking, okay, I'm in a crisis now, I want to get out and get into this labor market and do something, but I feel like I can't just do it because they let me go. I lost everything. I don't have enough skills or talent or marks. I don't have enough GCSE for the English list. What do I do? So is all this a disaster? Is there a hope? And I think you have so much to tell us. I'm just going to sit down and listen here.
So thank you so much. So critical opportunity method was created during my master's program at the University of Southern California. And it was created through a very interesting turn of events because 4 months into being accepted to that master's program, I was actually laid off myself. And it was quite the shocker because I was part of a tech company that was in its, early stages. So I had possible equity, everything was coming up roses, and I just had gotten accepted to my dream school. So when they told me that they had allocated budget from my position into the sales role and I was no longer needed, I did what everybody does who gets laid off. I cried, and then I called unemployment. And unemployment told me, well, you're going to have to be available to accept any and all full-time work. And as such, you have to quit the University of Southern California. I was beside myself. I had just gotten accepted to my dream school, and I didn't know what to do. So fortunately, USC is really good at cultivating relationships within its cohorts. And I had a great study group that I had already formed and a close relationship with the professor. And I talked to my professor. I said, well, what do I do? And they said, talk to your group, talk to your cohort. So I talked to them and I said, listen, like they're telling me I have to quit and I don't want to. And they said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I've been freelancing since 2009. I've been helping companies since 2009. I really would love to start my management consulting firm. And they said, then do it. Then just do it. You're in school. Student loans are for food, they are for shelter, and they are for your studies. Lean into that. Start your management consulting firm. So the next day, I marched myself down to the Secretary of State's office. I opened what has now transformed into my firm, People Risk Consulting, but also I picked up the phone and told unemployment no. And without that brave moment, I would not have been able to dig deep into this concept of not only learning from failure, but innovating from failure, which is the critical opportunity method. And it was my master's thesis. And the master's thesis came with a practicum, which is why the workbook exists. Because after the practicum, after everything was said and done, year and a half later, the pandemic hit. And businesses were going out of business because they couldn't let people in their doors. They couldn't have customers in their shops. I had a healthcare provider who was a client, and they run a network of behavioral health clinics and substance use disorder treatment centers. And they're like, we're going to have to send people home. And I said, no, this is your critical opportunity. This is where we don't look at what's not possible. We challenge that. We challenge saying, maybe this is true. Maybe this is true because A, B, C, D, but let's just actively challenge that maybe this is not true because A, B, C, D. And when you look at what is possible versus what is not possible, what you focus on increases. And then you can pick something to experiment with. You can pick that one thing. In my case, it was, hey, could I? Could my experiment was, could I live off of student loans while building a management consulting firm? Fast forward to today, spoiler alert, absolutely yes. I'm hitting 10 years in business coming up this year. So, yeah, absolutely, it is possible. But I think when people are hit, business owners, career professionals, anyone is hit with what seems like, and it could be just a problem, it could be a crisis, it could be a basic failure, but the tendency is to look at the ways that it's affecting us in a negative way, or to deny that it's happening, or to disavow anything having to do with it, or to begin to emotionally beat ourselves up with, I'm either too good for this or I'm not good enough for this. And that's what drives the next behavior. But in critical opportunity thinking, what you do is you actually have a productive pause where you're assessing the situation. And the productive part of the pause is to come into awareness, consciousness, and humility about the situation so you can question from a place of what's possible, fact checking, maybe this is true, maybe this is not true, and picking your one experiment that you can do, your one step toward a direction of innovation, of change, of better things versus the downward spiral, which can pull you into denial, disavowal, ego, blame, shame, victimization, all of those things that pull you downward even further, even though a trauma response says this feels comfortable.
Trauma response, yes. Fight or flight, high cortisol, stress. These are all things that impair our way of thinking because we are now trying to survive. So it's good for a day to go, oh, I lost the job. I'm in the middle of a divorce. My child cannot go to school anymore. He's lost the job as well. We can't pay the bills. It's okay. You can kind of scream and hit the wall, right? Emotionally. But there's the point where you have to land, have all this dust settled and think, okay, what can I do? Instead of, oh, this is bad, this is bad. What can I actually do? And that totally changes the focus of our mind. This is about neuroscience as well, isn't it? So we can look for opportunities. And as we were saying in pre-recording chat, there are so many people that have shown us in history that they were told, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't sing, you can't act. And they became the best of the best on the face of their tutors and piano tutors and whatever environment they were in. They were not encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a common story. And we were talking before, and we were talking about Oprah Winfrey, who was told that she didn't have a face for television. And of course, we all know that Oprah Winfrey now is one of the more powerful media voices of our time. The gentleman who started FedEx, he got a D on the school paper where he pitched FedEx as a concept. He was given a D on that. And now FedEx, UPS, DHL, they're among the big three players other than the US Postal Service and sending things all around the US and the world. So you think about these stories, these people, Walt Disney being told he was unimaginative, could not be farther from the truth. All of these things. I myself, by a high school teacher, was told that I couldn't write and I shouldn't even try. So these statements, right? These things that happen, these some things that come to us, they're very laden with that person's mask that person's lens on our life, their personal experience. And we can't let that stop us. And that's why that first stage of critical opportunity thinking is so important, because awareness is simply asking yourself, what is happening right now? Consciousness, what are the different aspects of what is happening right now? And I can apply this to the situation that I had with the master's program. What is happening right now? Well, I'm being laid off. I don't have another job lined up. I have been freelancing now for years. I just got accepted to my dream school. I have a great support system in the people that I am studying with. I'm getting student loans. Student loans are for food, housing, and education. I will be fed. I will be housed. I can stay in my dream school if I have the courage to move forward and start my company. And when I started telling that story, I had left actually a contract role with the state of Nevada to join this software company. And one of the people that I told my story to was a former administrator for the state of Nevada, DHHS, and Division of Health and Human Services. And she introduced me to a duo who are still my clients today and who were able to stay open during the pandemic. We developed a task force on health and safety for the facilities to determine who could come in, who could go out, how would we monitor the status of the employees that needed to be there, and then what did we do with telehealth? How did we expand telehealth? Today, that system is expanded because of what we did during the pandemic. They did not shrink. But I had a client at the time, and that client literally told me, Diane, you're crazy. You are absolutely crazy. What are you talking about? Revenue growth, innovation, change. This is a good thing. Diane, everybody is shutting down. Nobody can make any money. Nobody can leave their house right now. And I think you're absolutely nuts thinking that my firm can continue at its current revenue levels or greater, knowing that all this is happening in the world. So what that is that is the second layer down in the downward spiral. So the first layer down in the downward spiral is denial, disavowal, and ego. So she was fully in disavowal, this one, and definitely in ego. We are not good enough to. We're not good enough to do this. So the next stage down is victimization and blame. So becoming that victim of the external circumstance and blaming, no, this is happening, this is happening, this is out of control, this is out of control, this is all out of control. And in that process, completely taking the opportunity for any sort of innovation and cutting it dead in its tracks. There is no innovation. There is no light. There is no hope from a place like this. And down it goes into hopelessness and powerlessness. And then there is a tendency to want to reach out. But sometimes that tendency to reach out seems hopeless and powerless. So isolation happens. When someone does reach out from that mindset, they actually start reaching out to people who are going to co-sign their bad behavior. So I call this joining forces with hate. So I want to find someone to rage against the machine with. I want to find someone, this could be if someone is listening and, they've lost something and they're in that victim space, they're going to be like, I just want to complain about this. I want to tell you how bad everyone who is involved with this is. I want to tell you how messed up the world is. And I want you to agree with me. And I want this to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until, well, you really, really can create some wreckage like that. So it's important, back to the upward spiral, to come into that awareness, consciousness, and humility, because when you get to that point and you've done your path evaluation and you've looked at things and you come to that point where you do want to reach out, that you reach out to gather support versus the flip side of that. Because who you surround yourself with, especially in the darkest of times, matters the most.
Absolutely. And it's important to see how we can go from this chaos to the clarity, because we have like a framework there where we decide which kind of energies do we want to have around us, so we are not marching on confirmation bias. So that it could be depressing that you can't get what you want, or you lost something that you really like. This happens, it's part of life, guys. You really want to have kids and you have 5 miscarriages, and you think, why me? And you keep thinking negatively, but you have to actually talk to your body and say to your body, you are so good. You preserve me from having a severely disabled child, but now you're going to be so good. You're going to prepare the perfect embryo. That's what we do here in hypnosis. We teach the body to love itself, and you do as much as possible to have the right framework where the ideas can be, and where we can really reprogram our mind with our words, because words have a huge power and we don't realize how bad it is, but they have an energy. So if I go and speak bad, critical, depressive words, I'm creating an electrical field, a vibe that will attract or detach from me different type of forces. You can decide what they are, what kind of friends you want. Even the type of music they will listen to can be inspiring. Think about the overture of William Tell. If you put that one in the morning, if you're depressed, you're just going. But if you put depressing, low music or lots of gore on TV, and you feel like, it's all terrible, I only watches the news with his catastrophic, sensationalist titles. But I always wonder, the rich are becoming richer all the time. So where's all this disaster? So there must be something here that I'm not getting.
Well, and there is something, and it is definitely in that wiring to want to see the world in a certain way, to believe in a benevolent universe versus a malevolent universe. And to have that belief, not just have that be an affirmation, because affirmations are all well and good unless you don't believe in them. And then they can actually do more harm than good, because you are really reinforcing yourself. I don't believe that. I'll do the thing. I'll do the thing, but I don't actually believe in that. And that's why critical opportunity method and how you engage in critical opportunity thinking is a thought process. It is an experimentation process, and it is an iteration process. So sometimes, in order to iterate, to open up, you have to put on a little bit of a different hat. You have to put on a little bit of a different something outside of yourself so you can do that. So whether that is, I'm going to approach this problem like I'm a researcher, or I'm going to approach this problem like I'm a curious kid, or a scientist, or a reporter, and or just an experimentalist, a scientist, a mad scientist, whatever you want to be. When you approach your problem through that lens, that theoretical framework, so to speak, you begin to see in that way. So when I approach my problems, and ultimately you can put on these personas the same as you would put on a Halloween costume, and it gives you just enough distance, just enough way to observe yourself. So then when it comes down to the 20 questions part of the process, and you force yourself to ask any question but why, you are asking the right questions. So why not why? Why is incredibly emotional. Simon Sinek says start with why. And the reason why he says start with why is because brand affinity is all about falling in love with a brand, falling in love with a company. And it's all about that emotional connection. But if you ask someone why 7 times, they will cry. if you want data, not emotional data, if you want actionable data, you're going to ask what, you're going to ask when, you're going to ask how, you're going to ask who, you're going to ask where. Those are the things that are going to get you some experimental, actionable data. You can handle the emotional part later on once you're on your next path. I'm not saying deny the emotional part. Yes, it's there. But when you're in experimentation strategy, which I am an experimentation strategist, you want to ask those questions so that as you're asking yourself those questions, ideas that you didn't think about start to uproot. And actually, I do give the jobless example in my workbook, Creating Critical Opportunity. I do give that as an example because it's a common one. It's a common one to then ask questions. And as you start to ask the questions, go, I really didn't even think about that. So, net, my own example, my thought was, okay, well, I'm going to experiment into this. I'm going to give myself a time frame and I'm going to see how I'm going about. But I look at my runway, I look at what I have, I look at what I had in savings, and I thought, okay, I can comfortably afford an experiment of this duration. And I'm going all in. I'm not going all pinky toe into this. I've got my one domino, my one thing I want to experiment on. And then I am developing a strategy so that I can approach this in such a way. I just did it today. We're about to have a freeze here. And it was really interesting how once you're really engaged in critical opportunity thinking, even something as a extreme change in weather can change the way you look at it. So automatically I thought, okay, what's the domino around this? The weather's going to change. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to put on my risk manager hat. What's the risk? Power goes out. Okay, power goes out. What do I need? And I started asking myself those questions. I'm not asking myself why. I'm not getting emotional about it. But ultimately, it gives me the presence of mind to order a generator, to have it be here before the freeze is supposed to start, to have everything on hand and go, great. If it happens, I'm covered. If it doesn't happen, camping is going to be great this summer.
It's a great attitude. I love that. It's very positive. And I think that's it. It's good to think positive, but then we have to take the action. When we take the action, we are confirming that we were right. And if we don't, then our brain will start thinking, oh, yeah, you didn't do it. Now you're safer because you didn't risk. That's the base of anxiety and panic attacks. Not taking action in fear that something catastrophic will happen. But most people, you'll be surprised to see they are in treacherous situation, but not because the world was against them, but because they didn't take the action in fear that something would happen. And then they went down, and there is a small fraction of humans who end up with alcohol, drugs, or smoking, or emotional eating, I don't know, something that will numb those uncomfortable feelings and take them away to a point of pleasure for a little while, but they can't stay very long there. So they have to get more of this addiction or whatever. And that's not criticism, guys. But some of us will do that. And the thing is, when we want to help those people, we want to get them unstuck from this point of thinking that there is no hope and everything is back. And I interview so many people in my podcast who were in treacherous situation, like in coma for 2 months, and they were told, you're not going to walk, you're not going to talk anymore. Then they lost their wife during the coma period and everything, because the wife went off, and now they are successful speakers, although half of the body is paralyzed. Other people, Kevin Payne, I interviewed like 4 years ago, 5, he has MS. His wife left, and he was becoming more and more paralyzed and no control of the legs. He learned to do jumping from airplanes by devising a method to jump safely. And now he is an instructor. Every day he risks his life jumping from his airplane. He has a life of purpose and success. And I can go on and on. So we can look at everything with two angles. What can I do about it or not? These are coaching questions. Never ask why. Ask, what can I do now? How can I do it? Who can help me? Where are the resources? What can stop me? What can I do about that? Keep asking, and you will get somewhere. That's a great message that you have, Diane. And
Absolutely.
love it.
You just ask questions and take one small action. And when you take that one small action, observe. Observe what happens when you do that. Observe the responses. Look for the next question that you need to ask. That is being open. That is what's called iterating. And when you iterate, you keep walking and your path appears as you walk, and it alleviates anxiety because you know that your next step is the next step that you dictate. You are 100% in control of your emotions, your body, your actions, what you do. 100%. That is you. Locus of control is so important to understand because you are the decision maker in your life. And it's important as the decision maker too, that when you notice that something has made a positive impact, to celebrate that, because that's how you begin to wire yourself to engage in crisis learning. And you learn what works and you learn what is celebratable. And any small win is celebratable. And you don't have to do anything big to do it. Just acknowledgement that, okay, this worked out. This worked out. I found you on a website that is all about connecting journalists and experts together. And I didn't know it from Adam a year ago. And it was recommended to me. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try. I'm going to sign up for the free version of this and I'm going to try this. And then what happened? I started getting some interest and I go, okay, well, that's really interesting. I wonder what would happen if I actually went all in on this. I wonder what would happen if I committed to 2 to 3 days a week just pitching. What happened is I appeared in Forbes this month. So you think about the possibilities versus what's not possible, and you begin to just open the door to innovation. When you have the people who are in your circle who are invested in you winning versus there with the popcorn when you lose, that's another important aspect of this. And you'll be able to tell who they are because when you begin to celebrate, they will have a reaction. And you need to observe that and then make a choice for yourself. Are they on your celebration team? Or are they there with the popcorn waiting for you to fall?
Dang, dang, dang. I love what you said, and I want to ask. No, I wanted to say something. In the NLP world, neuro linguistic programming, we always say there is no failure, there's only feedback. And if we just put that one there, because sometimes we go through a route and it turns out not to be the right one. But while we're there, we're growing, we're learning, we're networking, which is always the most, as an Italian, I know, most important thing to do, networking, knowing people. Every time I see a person that says, I have this problem, or I need a therapist, or I need help with my work, or I always know 50 people that can help. And I always send in the link and say, this person can help you, that person can help you. So I collect the data of everyone. I know this lady is specialized in this problem. And so just knowing what people can do, and that's how you gather a great team. And this is also reconnected to what you said, what Walt Disney did. And you probably don't remember, but I actually worked for them for 3 years with Disney many years ago when I was in Italy, in another century, a millennium. And of course, never met Walt because he was well dead. But the big thing, he failed, regrouped, restarted, failed, regrouped, restarted. And his main designer of Mickey Mouse, with his unreadable name, I can never pronounce it, he left Disney and then became very big somewhere else, and then he went back to Disney. So thinking about this feedback, and he was learning, he was growing. So it's not that you go there and I have a shiny success and you have a $1 million in the bank. This straight trajectory is basically for movies where, like a Hallmark movie, when from beginning to the end everything happens and is sorted. But real life is more like falling and thinking, what's my next step after this? After this,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what? Now what?
Now what's the
It,
rest?
it is. It's really important to have that mindset and to understand that this is a common story and you're not terminally unique because something bad happened. I don't think there is a single person that I have ever talked to who doesn't have a story about that time where their life turned upside down and they had to figure it out. I think it's a common story and it's a common way to connect. Unfortunately, complaint is also one of the top ways people connect. People are much more likely to leave a business review that is a complaint than is praise. But these complaints too are diagnostic. They're absolutely diagnostic of where your brain is. If your brain goes immediately to complaint, it's time to look and say, how's that worked out for you?
Mm.
Truly, how has that worked out for you? How has it worked out for you needing to always be right, to have something to complain about, something to rage about? How has that worked out? And when you come to that realization, you can then draw your proverbial line in the sand and say, you know what? I'm going to have some compassion for myself because this wiring, this wiring probably got installed by a different installer. It was installed by my mother, my father, my teachers, the person who told me I wasn't good enough. And bit by bit, this wiring gets installed, and then you begin to focus on stuff to prove that wiring correct
Mm.
all along the way. And when you realize that and go, wow, I can rewire that. And I have the power to rewire that. You can then lean in and commit to that. You can commit to that through critical opportunity method and learning critical opportunity thinking. You can commit to that through hypnotherapy. You can commit to that through a number of modalities, but it's important to commit. It's important to realize you have the power and then commit to the action that opens you up to someone other than that network that co-signs your bad behavior.
This is a great conversation, and I love listening. And to you, I just seem this spirited woman going, just gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. We're gonna get there. And so let's pretend we are one of the listeners, and we're home, and we're thinking, you know what? I believe Dr. Diane Dye, and I think it's possible for me to do. I'm a bit confused now. What should I do next? What is the first step? And I always like to do 2 or 3 tips, work on them, share them so people can really stop a program and say, right, I can do something today. So what can we do today?
Absolutely. So today, one, engage in productive pause. Spend your pause time centering yourself, getting yourself nourished, getting yourself warm and happy. Do the things that you want to do and you love to do to get yourself in the right frame of mind to ask the questions. 2, identify thing the one thing causing the most pain that you need to experiment around. And 3, be willing to unlearn what you think you know about that thing before you ask the questions. Because when you develop that 20 questions list and you ask any question but why, you might discover some things that directly challenge what you have believed all along. And that is where the innovation comes from. Because when you can unlearn what you think you know, you open up to new possibility.
We call those limiting beliefs, Tony Robbins style. And we have tons. Sometimes I talk to my children and they rehash all these ideas, and I'm like, these are so much limiting beliefs. Can we crash through them? Because there's so many assumptions. I always say every belief should have four legs. It's a table, right? There's a table in Tony Robbins' method. And every belief lies on the fact that, well, A plus B plus C plus D gives me this situation. And most of the times they have a situation there, but the legs are not there to sustain their belief.
Mhm,
When you
mhm.
challenge it, your brain will start crumbling these beliefs because you're challenging them. Because all you're doing is you're working on an electric circuit that is connected. You have neurons, we have synapses in between. They become solid because of repetition.
Yes,
Repetition.
exactly.
Repetition.
And And there's a formula inside the book, and the workbook is called Creating Critical Opportunity, but there's a formula inside I'm going to give you as well, because there are four components to that as well. So, in order to get change, first, you have to understand that your dissatisfaction with status quo and your motivation and your process to change, all three of those have to be greater than what you think it's going to cost you to change or your resistance. If your dissatisfaction with status quo, your vision for the future, and your process or your experiment to do that is not, you will not get the change. So that is Dr. Michael Beer's formula, and out of Harvard Business Review, it is a proven formula, but you can use that anytime you want to change something in your company, in your life. Look at yourself and go, am I really ready to let go of status quo here? Do I have very clearly in my mind what the future is going to look like on the other side of this? What is the North Star? What is the thing that I'm going for? Do I have any role models for it? What is the process or the experiment around the change? And then face your cost head on, because that maybe this is true, that can speak very, very loudly. And whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
That's true. And back again, that's what we say in coaching. We say we say when the problem that you have is causing more problem if it stays there than if you changed, then you're ready to tackle the problem. When it's so very painful, you're not really ready. But when the pain has reached that threshold, I can't cope anymore, then you're ready to change it. You will do anything. So what does it take you to understand it's your decision now? Is because the mind is always trying to get a homeostasis. There's a pleasure, there's a pain, and the mind is always trying to go to balance and to pleasure. And change is difficult. I'll say this over and over. It's going to be my signature phrase. Change is painful. Change is painful. And the most difficult change is not the environment, it's what is going on inside us, our emotion, our spirituality, our health, our so many wires and in all synapses. All this stuff goes together and works to create this reality. But the map is not the territory, another NLP concept. So the idea that we have about the job market or dating in your 50s or moving abroad, this is not the territory, is our map. And the map will be different for every person. And here with Dr. Diane Dye, we can see that this map can change. So when it aligns with the territory. So it is not now it's impossible to get a job, or it's impossible to get better at your job, or to scale, or whatever. And I was reading literally 2 minutes ago about a woman who is in her 40s and she raised the children and she sent so many resumes, literally 2 minutes ago on Facebook. And she was like, I am desperate. What can I do? And I'm like, you have to watch my episodes here. We have so much to help you. And it's not that you don't have a job. And many times we don't even see what the skills are, what the value is that we are bringing. We just put a resume. I got a degree, I got a PhD, but what can you do? What problems can you solve? How do you connect with people? And, all these things, we have a CBA that are from the 1950s. We need to change because managers now are looking for solving problems. So every time we put an advert, we're not looking for your Harvard degree, that's lovely, Yale. We're looking for a person that can solve that problem. So how can you solve the problem? Can you solve the problem? Have you done it before in another different scale? That's what's going to get you hired. Your connection, your understanding what you can bring to the company and seeing how they see this problem. Not like, well, I need to have some money, so I'm going to work for you. Wow, we're going to have a million people like that. It's just bringing this positive attitude. What can I do? What can I do? I really remember your story. Can I quote your story? Roller
Absolutely.
Tell us what happened when you really wanted to go roller skate. I'm a roller skater, so I'm like, yeah. Tell us the story. It's a different name to my podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up the daughter of a struggling entrepreneur, and when my mother and father divorced, my mom and I were on our own, and I grew up very, very much in poverty, very poor, in the nicest house in town, but had the least amount of money. And I really wanted to go roller skating one time. And I was used to hearing no a lot as the daughter of a poor mother. And she said, I'm sorry, we can't afford it. No. And I was 8 years old. I picked up the church directory. I picked up the phone and I started calling everyone in the church directory. And by the time I was done, I had a ride to roller skating. I had money to go roller skating. I was fed and I was brought back home. And my mom was so upset. And she says, "You just want you want something, you just go out and get it, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, I do." She wasn't happy with that. But ultimately, that's kind of what it takes, that kind of attitude to get what we want, what we need. And somewhere along the way, on our way to adulthood, we lose that sense of wonder. We lose that need and desire and drive to experiment because someone punished us for it, or someone told us that that wasn't the way to be, so we tried to act right. But when we're kids, we try things and we fail and we're okay at it. Or we try things and we succeed big. Because I was poor, I did everything to make money. I rented out my library books for 10 cents a piece. I joined the Captain America Card Club and went door to door trying to sell greeting cards for so I could win a stereo because I really wanted a stereo.
Mhm.
I sold coupons to back to people for pennies off, give me 5 cents for this 10-cent off coupon, you're still saving 5 cents. And I tried to work my deal. Why? Because I wanted to try to have a little bit of something. I wanted to be able to go to a garage sale and get something, even if it wasn't a lot. And it's that drive, that desire to achieve, to win, that actually does create the win.
Mhm. So true. Oh, thank you so much, Diane. So beautiful. We could talk the whole day here. But this was a very useful episode. So thank you so much for being with us today. And maybe you might even be back one day.
Oh, absolutely. I would love it. And if your listeners want to go to peopleriskconsulting.com, there's a pop-up that comes up. Come to my live show. I have a
Oh,
show as well. Come to my show. I'd love to see you there.
yeah, that would be lovely. We're going to be putting links you can see with all these books and activities and everything else. You can get lots of them for free from Diana, and also you can get consultation, proper stuff. So you can actually go really deep with your company or personally and go forward. So thank you so much again. Thank you for listening, everyone. And I hope you will be able to listen, understand, grasp something useful. Tell me in the comments, did you enjoy the episode? Was there something missing that you want to talk about next time? And also click like, subscribe, share, because it helps the whole show and everything to be more visible so more people can find the help or offer help. So if you have expertise, come here. talk to me, and you're going to be the guest here and talk about your expertise to everyone so they can know how to create the life that they want. So thank you all, and I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.